Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, this is Joseph Dupont, and welcome back to the Tenacious Entrepreneur podcast. Tracy Kelly, again, is my host. I'll be working with Tracy Kelly today again. I'm your host, and we're grateful to have you, Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing all of this insights with us from your past and from how you've been able to make it through as an entrepreneur. The thing we just got through talking about, your path to salvation, and you changed your life, and everything was different from there. But I want to segue into what moved you forward. Like, what was the next step?
Yeah, so kind of like I was explaining, the whole experience of getting right with God had everything to do with my trajectory, mm-hmm. would you say, in business.
Yeah.
I didn't know that God had a whole plan for taking everything that I had messed up and everything that I was doing at the time and making it into something new for me, right?
Right.
And I learned that from Rick Warren. I actually got to meet him one time, so that was awesome. So the guy that wrote The Purpose-Driven Life and Church and all the other books. Yeah. So anyway, the once we moved out of not having a business that we owned, we still had a marketing agency. And when I was working with the franchise, they had actually put me on the technology committee for a number of years. And we had worked with software developers. We had worked with all the biggest and best digital marketing, pay-per-click, now geofencing, and all those kinds of things. So I had, experience working with the people who were developing. Back with you, I had experience with you with Dupont, Living Social, and all that, and so did my wife, Jenny. And her background is in graphic designs and radio and all these things, like these strengths and experiences I've been able to pull from the whole time. But basically, once we were thinking about, well, what's next? I looked at what you had going on, which I'd been a part of, but having a business where it's very relational,
right?
And you're building up entrepreneurs.
Are you talking about secure trade?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we have a unique model in that it's entrepreneurs who are basically setting up business incubators and bringing in mom and pop and small businesses and trying to help them build their businesses up, have a better lifestyle, but it also has a currency effect. And one of the things that I knew from all these guys that I had seen, like Jim Rohn and Dennis Waitley and Zig Ziglar, all these guys that were motivational speakers, not that I'm trying to be a motivational speaker, but their background somehow tied into finance. And so I figured, even though I didn't have a background in finance, I did have a background in business and right. P&Ls and all the balance sheets. I understood the finance. I basically acted as a chief financial officer for my own business. And I figured, that having all of these things together and being able to work with someone that I trusted implicitly was the best opportunity that I had moving forward. And I prayed about it, and it was like, of course, right? I set you up for this. Right? And so that's how we move forward. We still have our own businesses. We're consultants, so we work. You're our biggest client, but at the same time, we go above and beyond. What could be a part-time business actually is whatever's necessary.
Right.
And we have the trust in that to know that the chances of us, and I used to tell my employees this: I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to cheat you, I'm not going to steal from you. If you think that I'm doing those things, then we need to sit down and we need to talk about it. We need to communicate.
Right.
And that's the thing that we have in business, is that we trust each other.
Correct.
We don't have to worry if we're going to lie, steal, and cheat each other. We know we can. If that's what we think's going on, we can sit down and talk about it, and it's a misunderstanding.
Right.
But that's invaluable to me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the attributes I would say about about you that's very, very good in business is that you're very direct. You don't skirt the topic. If you have an issue with something, you just address it, and then it's not personal. So if it doesn't come out the way you want it, you're like, okay, but it didn't come out the way I want it, but we'll move forward. It's always good to know where you stand.
And it could be the stoic nature of how I was raised in
Right.
World War II, Korean military sort of upbringing. It's like, hey, don't be afraid to be a leader. Don't be afraid
Right.
to say the hard things, and don't be afraid to do the hard things. Lead by example. And if it comes down to friendships, at the end of the day, it's important that you tell the truth, even in friendship. Even when
Right.
somebody's, if things aren't going right, tell the truth, and the truth will set you free. You're going to be able to work through it. If it's a strong relationship, rocky road shouldn't derail it.
Right.
So
So you were able to keep your head, straight. I mean, so you closed that business and went into working with us, and you were able to pivot. I don't really remember like hiring you. I don't remember how it happened. Like did you call me up one day, or did I call you and say, hey, I need help in this area, or what happened?
the first time or the second time?
I'm talking about the second time. When you started, so you run the 504 territory for us, for secure trade. But I'm saying, when did you? How did that come about?
I think you'd call me
I called you. Okay.
and said, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was at the time where I knew that I was going to move forward, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And there were several opportunities, I think, at the time, because
Right.
there's always with us entrepreneurs, there's always multiple things going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, well, maybe we could do some insurance here or something there. I don't even remember.
Yeah. I don't either. I don't
There was
recall
a
it,
couple of opportunities, and
but I'm glad we went this direction because it's been a blessing. You've been with us for how long with 504 now?
right at 2 years.
Right. 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Time flies.
Yeah.
And you've done a great job. You've blown up the territory and helped so many small business owners. I think that's the thing that really drew you to it was helping those small business owners grow their business, huh?
Well, I understood how the process worked because I had been a member for so long from the creation of it. But at the same time, I believed in the leadership,
Right.
and I believed in the product,
Right.
and it made it easy, to go to work doing that. But I know, and I don't know if we want to go into that here, but when I first started, it was tough. You recognized in me. Because we were out doing some sales calls and some
Right,
different
right.
things, and I brought you to the side and said, "Hey, I don't know if this is for me."
Right.
Because the way that you sell is not necessarily how I sell.
Right.
And if you want me to be just like you in this area, that's going to be tough. And I know you're a sales training guy. You're
Right.
you're a guru of sales, basically.
Right. But it's different personalities. And I think
is.
that's actually a strength is to recognize that everybody's not going to do it exactly the way you do it.
No.
You don't really care how the cattle gets to market. You just care to eat the steak. So it doesn't matter if I get behind the cows and hit it with a whip and you run a bullhorn. They all get in the market.
True, but you recognized in me that it was what's the good word? It was basically that I had lost something that was dear to me, and that there was a wound there.
Right.
And that you needed to treat the patient and the wound rather than the symptom. And the symptom was that I was ready to give up.
Right.
And thankfully, and here's the guy that typically doesn't give up unless things,
Right.
can't move any further. But
Right.
for me, it was like, okay, I'm jumping into something else. I think I got it figured out. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I don't know if I got it figured out. But it wasn't that I didn't have it figured out or didn't have the skill set to do it. It was just that I was going through a grieving process.
Correct.
With
The
losing a
grieving
business.
process of losing a business. Yeah. So through the joining up with us, you found other paths to do other things like NFTs and other things that I think you've met people through the group.
I did.
That's helped you, and I think you guys are. What's the new NFT project that you guys are working on?
Yeah. So
can you talk about them? And I don't.
Oh yeah. No. There's nothing classified.
What are NFTs?
Yeah, non-fungible tokens.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that I figured out, about that I really liked about crypto and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, was the fact that almost it was like the wild, wild west of finance.
Right.
In that, you have a very stoic, I'll say, SEC in the United States, Securities and Exchanges Commission, which basically looks at stocks and looks at commodities or financial products that are sold.
Yeah, I know they just tied up Ripple, and they just released them like yesterday, huh?
Correct.
Like they had SEC was battling Ripple, which is going to be the backbone for all financial transactions internationally.
Right. So the thing that I saw that really interested me was the fact that not that it was the Wild Wild West, that there were no rules, but that it wasn't. It was something that you could have investors in.
Right.
That they weren't tied to. In other words, you could have young people invest in something they saw as exciting, rather than stocks, which was like
it became cool.
Yeah, it became a cool. That was a cool factor.
Yeah.
But what I also saw was with NFTs, they have smart contracts, and with smart contracts, all the buzz is with AI right now, and AI is absolutely going to be a paradigm change in our technology and in our business world. But I also saw with smart contracts that there were ways to do things automatically, not necessarily with AI, but business things that go on. It doesn't change the relationships, but it changes how things get done without any interaction, and it's decentralized so everybody can see it. And that's what I loved about it, was that there's nothing hidden with it. It's not that a government tells you it has to run a certain way. It's that this is how this is the right way for things to go, and this is if this then that, and everybody can see it. So that intrigued me, and through our group, we actually met some people on the North Shore, the Ozone Songwriters Foundation, or Ozone Music Foundation now.
Right.
And they do a songwriter festival every year. You got great backing, but we met Greg Barnhill, who's the president, who's a Nashville producer, very famous, wrote about 2,000 songs, and he's been involved in signed by Warner Brothers, all these different things, and he and I hit it off talking about the technology. He and I are both very technologically, I would say, advanced in business. And we started talking about all the different ways that the music business is behind the curve, because these platforms have now taken over the music business.
Right.
And kids are now trying to, instead of using the old record labels, they're using actual production through YouTube or through Spotify, Instagram,
TikTok, whatever.
Yeah, and there's nobody involved. But what I found in dealing with the music industry that I had a backing in, or had a background in, was that it's the Wild Wild West, in that these songwriters don't have really any music or business, model in how they get paid, other than copyright.
Right.
There's the BNIs and the ASCAPs of the world, but there's no business-centered system, right? Which is something I learned in franchising. It's really simple. Once you have a business system, it's really easy to apply that model. And I saw with NFTs, all they needed was smart contracts to be able to apply that model and basically help songwriters to get paid.
So that's what you guys are doing. Like y'all are creating a website for it, or what are you doing?
We actually already have an NFT.
Okay.
So we're going to be launching, should I say, an NFT.
Yeah.
And it's probably not ready for launch, so I won't mention the name quite yet. But we're going to have a way for people who and see, that's the thing. It doesn't just have to be songwriters, but it's people who are creative, right? So if you're a creator, whether it be anything that you create.
So like I wrote my book and I've got it copyrighted.
Correct.
As far as my book.
Right.
And so you're saying I could get an NFT
for
the book, or for?
Well, you could have an NFT that would basically go through every process of the business to get you paid for that book. So you could basically publish it on your own.
Right.
Without a publishing label, should we say. So there's so many opportunities in that. Like it starts with a need.
Right.
Find a need and fill it, and you start working on that, and you got a little background in it, and then you find out, hey, wait, there's all kinds of needs for this. So it's an exciting opportunity.
So are you thinking like you guys are going to have it out like in the next year? Or
Oh,
next,
yeah.
6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months?
This year.
This year.
25. 25 is a year for the
25.
NFT for songwriters to get paid. And there's a lot of interest and a lot of development, specifically that happened in New Orleans from the New Orleans Music Con.
Okay.
So that brought the people that do the New Orleans Music Con actually were the people that did South by Southwest in Texas.
Yeah.
And they moved back to New Orleans, and now they're putting on the Music Con as a way for the industry professionals and the creators to get together and do things. And man, in a few days of doing that,
So it's sort of like Comic-Con for music.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And in a
I
few
didn't know
days,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, we had the
I'm
idea.
so musically inclined.
No, but that's okay. I mean, having that's a good thing about being an entrepreneur is and being exposed to a lot of other entrepreneurs. Right. You don't have to be an expert at any field because you can generally call upon an expert to get advice.
Right.
And that to me is what's more valuable about networking, as opposed to just going through the nuts and bolts of a business, but actually having a network to be able to depend on. For me, it was a franchise, but now it's just a network of fellow entrepreneurs that I can fall on to get advice, to get key advice sometimes in areas that I may need.
Yeah, yeah. So moving forward, I guess the thing I would say is like, what is your in your darkest moments when we're looking at, okay, I've got to close this down and like I don't know what's next.
Right.
What was your mechanism? What did you do? I mean, everybody has their different thing that brings them to a place of peace. I mean, like, how did you find a way to get through it?
Well, I won't tell you. Well, I mean, talk about a darkest moment. I'll tell you a situation that I was in. It wasn't necessarily a business situation, but it was a life situation. So here I am, got a relationship with the Lord. My wife is pregnant. Everything's going great. And then 6 weeks before she was due to have our baby, she ended up going into labor, and they ended up. That's a long story. I won't go into all the details, but basically, the baby was born 6 weeks premature, 3 pounds 3 ounces, and my wife spent a total of 13 days in the hospital. So I almost lost the baby and my wife. Two of the things in life that I most loved. Yeah. And you were there for me through that. I mean, you basically took a picture of the 3 pound baby in my hands. That's now a 13-year-old thriving, young woman. That's a total blessing. But the thing that happened in that situation, nothing was going the way we had planned or the way that we had thought. And we had a close relationship with the Lord and with each other. And when the doctor came in and said, hey, we're going to have to take the baby. And like now, the baby's, heartbeat's messing up and all this. And they started wheeling in. Her doctor came in from Wisconsin. Yeah. So literally drove up, got in scrubs, and they wheeled my wife out, right? And I'm alone. It was all, wires and chaos, and then they wheeled her out. And they're like, and I'm like, what about me? And they're like, no, you'll be able to join her, but we got to, get her in the epidural and all this. And I was like, okay. And then I'm alone. And, it was like, what do I do? So I just prayed. And God gave me peace in that situation that I didn't know I could have, right?
Right.
And so I knew going through that, I mean, if I can do this with my closest friends and my closest, things that are the closest to me, if I can trust God to take care of me,
right,
it's going to be okay. Business now, even though my wife will tell you that it's business all the time, it's still secondary. What's most important to me is my family and my relationship with God.
Yeah. So finding that place of peace, I think that's the thing. It centers you down.
Correct.
And I know with me, like I find like whenever I get stressed, which happens. I mean, we're in business.
Sure.
I own 7 businesses, so I'm in a state of panic 2/3 of my life. But but I'm just saying is when I get to that point where I'm really super stressed, is whenever I actually have to pull away, and it doesn't make sense to the people that don't have this inner peace with God, but I have to pull away and actually unplug from everything. For me, I listen to worship music, but just listen to 5 minutes of a worship song completely resets me. and I can go back in the situation and deal with it without reacting to what's going on, because what's going on is just temporary. It's not permanent.
Right.
And we sometimes put ourselves in that position where we think it's permanent. And I see that with entrepreneurs, is that entrepreneurs may be facing losing their business, or their sales taxes coming to get them, and they're going to close all their accounts, and the world's coming to an end.
Right.
In their mind, and they see it as so finite, of like it's end, like there is no more. And I think the fact that you can lean on God, and it becomes more of a less of a just a one-off thing for me. Like, it's become a thing where I'm addicted. Like whenever I get in that stressful situation, I have to lean in to find my place of peace. Once I get it again, I can step back out and deal with all the chaos that's out there, and I'm okay.
Right.
But whenever I feel myself, going, crazy again, I have to do that because I'm the one that sets the tone in my home. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like you in the fact I have a wife that works with me in my businesses, and so it's always business all the time. But I find that, like, whenever I, get stressed and start, she's the only one that I'll actually, lash out at. Everybody else, I'm Mr. Peaceful guy. But, your wife can push your buttons. And so when I start lashing out at her, I start recognizing, oh, crud. Okay, my biggest fan, the one that actually is on my side cheering me on, I'm trying to, yell at her, crush her. Like, I have to recognize that, hey, I need to pull back and reset so that I can operate out of peace, because when I operate out of peace, my home's peaceful.
Right.
And even if we're stressful or having issues or whatever, like, I can reset it. And I've gotten to the point where, it's been such a blessing that I've been able to reset that, like, within 30 seconds with my wife, because hers primary love language is physical touch. I just have to hug her and tell her it's going to be okay. And then if I genuinely mean it from a place of peace that I'm at, then I can just feel her relax in my arms. And she's like, okay, it's going to be fine. And everybody's different. Everybody's got their different thing, but anyway, I know that I think finding a place of peace to pull from is probably the center most critical part of what you're saying you use to be able to pull out of, whether you're losing a business or almost losing a child, or struggling with your wife may die too, and all this stuff. Like, it's finding that place of peace, and being able to hold on to it through the storm.
Yeah, and that peace, and because the closer you get to somebody, it doesn't matter if it's in business or a personal relationship, whatever it is. It's like you see warts and all, right? Yeah. So the closer you get to somebody, we're all imperfect. None of us are going to live up to whatever standard that we want to set for them. They're going to fail. Yep. We're all going to fail at something. And the question is whether we're going to throw them out for that, or if we're going to accept that, they're going to fail and forgive them, and move on. What's more valuable? Is it the relationship, or is it the fact they failed? And it's the same way in business.
I think that's the key. Like, it's like, recognizing that the most valuable commodity you have is really the relationships. Correct. Because if you burn your bridges with all of your people, then it doesn't matter. Like, if you have $1 million, in your hand or in your bank account, and but you have nobody to share life with, right? Because you've managed to push yourself out on that island of Whiffle, right? And you're all alone. And so that's what I would encourage people, man. Is like, if you're feeling alone and you feel like that there's no hope in your business, just know that, like, there's hope on the other side. You may be called to be someone's second that can lift their arms up and help them, because I can say, like, with like what you've done here and helping us grow this area, I couldn't have done it without you. And so you were a second that came alongside me and became a first. Like, you're running the territory now. I'm not even here anymore, and now you got your own businesses that you're doing NFTs and all that kind of stuff. But it all wouldn't have happened had you just kept putting your head down and moving forward until you march into oblivion off the cliff. You had to recognize that you needed to pivot. And no doubt. Make a move. And I think that move has been a great blessing in your life.
Well, you developed a system. I think that's key. Yeah. Is having a system in business. You may not have one now, just thinking about starting it out, but start getting with some people that have a system. That's why people buy franchises, is because they have a model that they can overlay to what they're trying to do and learn a system. And every successful business that I've ever been around has some sort of system that they're operating under, and some sort of mantra of leadership that's instilled in the ranks, almost like military.
What would you say to a person in closing, like they're in a position where they don't know what they should do? Like not everybody's in a franchise situation. And what I tell entrepreneurs all the time, I work with entrepreneurs, is that if you're not monitoring your business so that every year you evaluate whether or not it's something that you want to continue to invest in, then you're probably going to fail, because you're just living off of dreams and hopes, instead of, hey, I'm negative $27,000 in my checking account because I didn't, and you keep putting your credit cards on it, and and you're trying to like survive. Like, what would be the thing you would say to somebody that is struggling right now with making a decision on whether they should keep their business or close it?
Well, don't be afraid to analyze, and if you need help, get a professional financial guy to analyze it. But also,
when you say analyze it, you mean like figure out your profit and loss, and
if you're not
just taxes.
Well, there's a certain level of business that you can run out of your checkbook, right. But I mean, anything over $500,000 a year, you better have financials, right? So if you're aspiring, I mean, to me, and then they'll teach you this in the franchise world as well. You really need to shoot for $1 million plus per year business, for it to not that it won't be successful, but for things to calm down and start really putting on a trajectory of growth beyond that. So $1 million a year business is kind of what everybody shoots for. So that should at least be your goal in your business, and I know some people are going to say, well, I just want to run it out of my garage and that's as big as I want to get. And that's okay. And you can run that out of your checkbook. But if you want to shoot for, for not a legitimate business, but a business that you can build on, you really should shoot for that $1 million business. And in order to run that, when you're going to have ARs and accounts receivable and all that, you got to
evaluate, to see, am I on the trajectory to get there?
Right, because you don't know.
How long is it going to take me to get there?
Yeah, you don't know when your money's coming in.
Fly to Mars, if takes you 70 years to get there, whoever flies there is going to be dead.
Right.
But if you can put yourself in a hyperbaric chamber and go to sleep, you can.
You can solve the engineering hurdles.
Yeah, you solve the engineering hurdles. But I think that's to me, I think that's the key, is being able to evaluate where you're at.
Right. Get some professional help if you need it.
And then have accountability with somebody besides your wife that you can go to and say,
correct,
hey, this is where I'm at, what do you think I should do? And get advice. They're not God, they're not going to make you do anything. But if you don't have anybody in your life that you can be genuine with, I think you're going to fail anyway. So finding that person, so that's what I would say, is find somebody that you can put it in front of, see if it's going to be what you want to do. I remember I was flipping cars when I first lost my business, and my wife talked to me and she said, I need you to look down the road 10 years from now, and she said, I know you. If you're going to sell cars, it means you're going to be a new car dealer and own a franchise, and you're going to you're going to go all out. She said, is that who you want to be? Is that the person that you're aspiring to be? And she helped me to evaluate, and I was like, no, I don't want to be the guy that owns 12 dealerships anymore. That's not me.
Right.
I don't want to be there. So I was able to pivot. Thank God I had a godly wife that helped me, but I also had other, godly men, or, good men that I put around me that were able to put their hand on my shoulder and say, hey man, slow down. And I think that was wisdom,
Well, and I think it's being able to admit that even in a position of leadership, you're not the ultimate leader.
Right.
And that you have to submit to some higher power.
Right.
And for me, I had to identify what that higher power was, and I had to stop, drop, and pray. And that's the second key. If you don't have any kind of relationship of anybody that is over you, and it all stops with you, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
I like that. Stop, drop, and pray.
Yeah.
That's a good mantra to have. Guys, I thank you so much, Tracy, for coming and being with us. And it's a blessing to have you here. We definitely have you back. And look forward to hearing some great news on the NFT front.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right.
Thank you, Joey. Love you, brother.
I love you, brother.
Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.